Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Barry Sendach, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to be with us, and I'm super excited to hear your life story. So like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we'll start with where you were born. We'll go all the way up to today, and then we can talk about anything that you'd like to talk about that you're working on today and or for tomorrow, okay?
Mike, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, actually. So happy to help out and happy to tell my story, and hopefully it'll benefit somebody else.
It will, I promise you, because one of the things we know from our feedback from our show is people will hear your story and they'll connect with you somehow, and it'll inspire them and motivate them to go out and do something that they've been putting off. Kind of like if Barry can do it, we can do it, right? And that's really what we're all about. We're all about inspiring and motivating people. So I can't thank you enough. I'm super excited about our time together. So where were you born?
I was born in Queens, New York. I grew up in Bayside, Queens.
Okay.
Yeah, it was nice. You know, we had a lot of friends. I still have a lot of my friends from that period. I have friends for over 50 years.
Yeah.
And when I was young, I wanted to make some money, so I started waxing cars, and then when I got jobs in supermarkets, and I got a job in a drugstore, and then we started going to the flea market with one of my friends. We'd get up at 4 in the morning and drive to Englishtown, New Jersey, and
Wow.
basically sleep in the car online waiting for the flea market to open.
Yeah.
And people would knock on your window, you know, when it was pitch black, and say, "Hey, what do you got? I want to see before you open." I mean,
Right.
we were kids. We were 17, 18 years old, and you know, you never forget stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, when I finished school, I went to work in a family business. We had a home decorative fabric business. And if you would have asked me what I would be doing when I was 28 years old, the rest of my life, I would have said selling fabric.
Yeah.
The only problem is that there was, like, all our suppliers went out of business one
Oh,
after another. The whole industry, just evaporated.
oh my
And
gosh.
the people that did what we did don't don't do it anymore because it doesn't exist. I'll ask you, when was the last time you had something upholstered?
I never have.
Exactly.
I never
When
have.
I went into the business, I was at 22 or so,
Yeah.
there was 6 or 7 pages of upholsterers just on Long Island, and we
Yeah.
used to sell all those and the decorators. And it was a very well established business at the time in the 80s. It was in business 40 some odd years, but we just couldn't operate it anymore. So part of it I sold to a guy in Florida. I moved to Florida myself and consulted with him for a few days a week. And the rest of it, we just collapsed. I mean, it was even difficult to get rid of the inventory,
Yeah.
because nobody wanted it.
Is that
And
what made you move to Florida?
well, that was the one of the things. And then I said to my wife, is a PhD psychologist, and at the time she was running a therapeutic preschool psychology department. I said, "This is our chance. Do you want to go to Florida?" And we just went,
Yeah.
bought a house, and took our kids down when they were young and raised them. And they went kicking and screaming. And a year later, my oldest daughter said to me, says, "Dad, moving us to Florida was the best thing you ever did."
There you
At,
go.
at that point, we were living in Long Island, and we had a house, and Long Island was just getting more crowded. New York was just getting more crowded and more crowded. And it was just like to come down here in the sunshine, as you know, living in San Diego, which is even a nicer climate than we have here.
Yeah.
That is nothing like it.
Yeah. That's
And there
true.
is nothing like it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, me either. I know exactly how you feel. We're getting drowned right now in rain, but it's
Gotta rain
it's still
sometime.
paradise.
Gotta rain sometime.
Yeah, it's still
It's
paradise.
just
Well, we went through a drought, right, for
yeah.
about 10 years. And these last 2 years have been extra wet. So we're digging ourselves out of the drought, and that has to happen, right? So it's a blessing for
But
sure.
where you live is just one of the most beautiful places in the country. Have been there a number of times. I mean, it's just really nice. Newport, you know, San Diego, the surrounding area is just gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is.
So,
So let me
so
ask you a question. So growing up, what was your favorite thing about growing up in Bayside?
growing up in Bayside was when I was first born, we lived in an apartment house, and then we moved to a two-family house, and I could just go outside and no elevators or anything. And there was just kids everywhere. So that was a big change for me, and I that was that was my favorite thing, is just having so many friends around. Just to play baseball, football. We traveled in groups,
Yeah.
and it was nice growing up there.
And you
And
played outside until it got dark and it was time for dinner, right?
well, I had a Timex watch that my parents got me, so told me what time to come home, and that's the time I came home.
There you go. That's awesome. So in high school, did you have a favorite subject?
In high school, yeah, I liked the history. I thought it was fascinating. Back in the day, they taught a lot of American history,
Mhm.
and it was just, that was interesting. And English was good. And I took a film class, and the guy that taught it he was very dynamic, and that was very interesting. We saw films that I would never even think of in a million years to watch.
That's awesome. So you graduate from high school and you immediately go to work, right?
Basically, yeah, I took college classes at night when I could, but I was working full time, and I basically had two jobs: working in a flea market, and I was working in a drugstore for a couple of years as a manager. My friend's father owned it. They had a second store, and they put me in charge of it. And then I went to work in a family business.
So what was it that you sold at the flea market?
We sold hairbrushes
Oh, did you?
and beauty supplies. Yeah. And my friend who I did it with, his father had passed away when he was 18, and he had to work. So he kept selling hairbrushes, and he worked through college, and he developed a very big business and sold it a couple of years ago. And, was very successful at it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you were there in the ground floor.
Yeah, and he took over, and we went separate. We're still good friends.
Yeah.
Actually, we're very good friends. But he went one way, and I went the other.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you move down to Florida, you sell the company, the fabric company. Then what happens?
Then I say, well, I'm here. Now what? So I
Mhm.
get a real estate license. I start buying condos and houses and selling them. And then 2008 happens, and we got stuck and had to give some back and had to make deals. And then I looked at myself and said, now what?
Mhm.
So I started like becoming an introducing broker on the currency market. Did that a couple of years until the rules changed with that. And then I started saying, what can I do now? You
Mhm.
know, my wife looked and says, what are you doing in here? I says, I got to figure something out.
Right.
So she was a psychologist. She worked in a drug rehabilitation place as a psychologist, and I was starting to get into containers. I don't
Okay.
know why. I just thought sustainable housing would be a thing of the future.
Yeah.
So I started, I always had a background with importing from the fabric business. I knew how to do it. I've been to China before. I've been pretty much on most continents in the world at one point or another. And I started getting contacts for shipping containers and swimming pools, and started marketing them and putting together a little team of marketing people to get the word out. And we started selling a couple, but it was difficult to sell shipping containers here from China because they wouldn't pass the codes of the US.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so in order to pass code, we had to build it here. So I found a guy that builds them here, and he knew nothing about selling them except what came his way. And between the two of us, him building it and having the experience to build it, we've built places for NASA. We've built kitchens. We built technology centers out of shipping container homes. We just built a couple of homes for the U.S. government preserve out in the Everglades. I'm licensed to sell the government. We have we're a licensed contractor. We're building something. We're getting a purchase order for build something for NASA. And then I said, well, what else can I do? So I saw these domes years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, and I said, these are cool. And I bought a couple and started selling them.
Yeah.
I put them up online. I started doing SEO with a company and developed it organically. And it became something. And then I got more domes and more domes and yurts, and we're getting into various other products, which we'll discuss later. But the domes became something. I mean, they were used on NCIS Hawaii show in the last season. We just did a show with Martin Homestead, which is on Carbon TV. They just bought 130 acres and they're gonna do sustainable living. They're gonna feature the domes. We have a partnership going with them, and they're just been all over the place. I've sold them all over the world.
So they're geodesic domes.
They're geodesic domes. They're glass domes. They're polycarbonate domes.
And I saw they can be used as greenhouses, as growing houses.
You could use them to grow stuff in. You could use them as a hybrid to live and grow stuff in. You could use them, for any application. We sell projection domes, where you could have an immersive theater in it.
Wow.
We could,
wow.
The beauty of it is, let's say you got a 30-foot dome, so it's 685 feet of floor space.
Right.
But you could have 2 floors because they're 15 feet high. So you could have 1,370 feet for the price of the 685 if you want.
Wow.
You could build it up, which
That's
people
incredible.
do. They put a loft in. And we could design, the clear part to be higher so that you're not looking at the ground. They're all scalable. They're customizable. They go up to 196 feet, which is over 30,000 feet of space.
Wow, that's incredible. So have you seen the dome in Vegas, the new one?
That's a dome, that $2 billion dome that has 167,000 speakers in it. I mean, the guy Dolan from Comcast, that's his project. That's his first one. He's going to build more, and I think U2 was the first one to play there, their first concert.
Yeah, and it looks just unbelievable from what I can, from the photos and the videos. It looks like such an unreal experience for people.
It is unreal. These things will be used on the moon. We've done renderings, because people, that's that's why they're sending people into space. They're not sending people into space on, Bezos and what's the guy, Branson, and the others on sending people into space for no reason. The people are going to live there.
Yeah.
Maybe not in your or my lifetime, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's the future for sure.
Yeah. So domes will be there.
So when do you start Dyester?
Well, Dyester was started about 5 years ago, and it was just a spin-off to separate the shipping containers from the other business.
Gotcha.
So when we started that, we were already in business and we had revenues, so it just was another avenue. but that is all the domes, all the yurts, and the shipping container homes are separate.
So I saw on your website that there was a shipping container that was turned into a lap pool.
That is correct.
That is very cool.
It is cool, and we're actually make them now in infinity pools. So we'll have glass going around the long part,
Oh
and you put in your backyard, and if you have a nice facing, you could have that, or you could have a glass panel in the front, and you could see yourself swim. You could have a resistance feature to it. It could be a salt pool. You could order a heater for it, but it's an above ground pool. You don't need a permit for it in like 99% of the places.
Right.
And a a gunite pool these days, at least in Florida, for like a 15 by 30 pool, is about $100,000.
Yeah.
These are less than half of that,
Wow.
and they're cool looking. And if you
That,
want to
it
sink,
was cool looking. I had never seen anything like that before, and I've been in real estate a long time.
and you could sink them into the ground. I don't recommend it so much in Florida because we're living at sea level.
The water level's so high.
Yeah,
The water table's
could.
so high.
Yeah. In order to do it in Florida, you got to encase it in concrete, but in other places, you could just put it in the ground.
Yeah. That is just incredible. I love that use. I just happened to see it and I thought, wow, that is so cool. Somebody's thinking.
But the beauty of the shipping containers, they could be anything. I mean,
Yeah.
we made server warehouses for a technology company. I imagine they were mining Bitcoin and that. I mean, we built a kitchen for a mushroom farmer. We're just building a clean room for NASA. We built a bathroom for the Radford Racing School out in Arizona.
There you go.
It's anything.
Yeah. That is really
It could
cool.
be anything.
Yeah.
They're using it for chicken coops, to raise chickens.
I love that.
So
People are thinking. That's really cool. So it's pretty much it's a shipping container, but you can pretty much do anything with it.
well, that's just it. It's a modular unit, and you can do anything with it. I mean, you could technically, you could take the top off one and the bottom off another, and you could have two high if you don't
Right.
if you want a high ceiling.
That's
It's actually
awesome.
more expensive than having it with a floor, but some people just want the air.
Yeah. Well, everybody wants what they want, right?
Everybody wants what they want.
And your job is to deliver it.
My job is to be fluid and fill the holes.
Yeah.
And that's business.
No, I agree.
101, is to, you ever hear the blue ocean theory, is to try to find new markets that people aren't in, even
Yeah.
within your industry.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
Go find a hole and fill it, right?
You've done it in your career.
Yes, sir.
That's
a
why
few
you're here
times.
today.
Yeah, a few times. So
That's just it. I had to do it a few times. My wife says, I don't know how you do it. You keep reinventing yourself. I said, what choice do we have?
right.
I said, it's an adventure.
Yeah. You either evolve or you die, right? And you're finding something that's needed. And to your credit, you saw this coming probably before it became really popular. I mean, now it's a big deal, and affordable housing and sustainable housing are sort of tongue and groove, right? They're part of what
100%.
is needed out there right now.
100%. It's like I tell everybody, I said, never give up.
Yeah.
Never give up. And when you're in business, do what you can to stay in business. I learned that the hard way with the fabric business. It could have been something else, if I had more experience.
Right.
It could have gone into containers. It could have been, when we could have decorated the containers, it could be something else. Stay in business. You see that, how hard it is to start a business, again, and reinvent yourself.
Yeah. It takes a lot, and it's, heavy lifting, and it's lots of hours, and but the thing is, and we talk about this a lot, you keep your eye on the ball. You keep your eye on what the end result is, right? And you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. There are going to be times when you feel like you're going backwards, and there are going to be times you're going to go backwards, but you just put one foot in front of the other and you just keep going. Just never stop.
Everybody's wrong. look at Thomas Edison. He said he found 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb,
Yeah.
but he hung in there with it, and he developed a light bulb, and he had like a whole bunch of patents, and he was a very wealthy man from all this, but he was very poor for a long time.
Yeah. And that's, it gets basic, right? When you have children and you're raising those children and they're trying to learn to walk, they fall down. Well, you don't tell them to go back to crawling. You don't tell them not to ever walk, right? You let them continue to fail forward. You let them continue to figure it out. And as you fall, you figure out, don't do that again, right? You
That's
get back
exactly
up
right.
and you walk better.
That's
I mean, it's
exactly
that
right.
simple.
You have to, you don't have to do anything, but if you're looking at something and you believe in it, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Hopefully you won't figure it out. You'll be able to figure it out before you run out of money.
Right. Exactly. That's the preferable stage, right?
Sometimes you don't, but you still hang in there, and
Yeah.
look at Bill Gates. Where'd he start? In his garage.
Yeah.
When he got lucky in the beginning and caught a break, and
Yeah.
that put him on the map. Now, if you want to run your computer, you got to call him. And if you
Yeah.
go back 100 years, you had to call the Vanderbilts to move your freight.
Yep.
You had to call Rockefeller if you want to put gas in your car.
Correct. Correct. Carnegie, if you wanted steel, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't build guys like that anymore.
No, it's true. And Steve Jobs started in his garage too, in Mountain View, right?
He said something that I'll never forget. He said, "We're going to make things that people didn't know they need."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sort of like you seeing sustainable housing becoming being the future. You saw that before it was really popular. I mean, people were still trying to dig out of the Great Recession when you got started in this. And you saw that almost like a visionary, kind of like what Steve Jobs was.
Well, before I was even thinking about giving up on it, I met somebody that actually did it and could do it successfully and knew
Yeah.
what they were doing, you know. So that was important that, I had, we put an A with a B.
Yeah.
He knew that I knew what I was doing, and he knew what he does. So that worked out well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mentors are absolutely invaluable. And we have those during stages in our lives. And like we talked about before we hit record, our job is to pay that back, right? Pay it forward in honor of those people that came ahead of us and that helped us to advance. We need to find people like you're helping a lot of interns, right? Like you were talking about, you have a drawer full of thank you cards. And I used to bring interns in and they'd follow me around, and some of them got super excited about what we do, and they're still in this business today. So yeah, it's important. It's a big deal.
Well, you're not going to win them all, but I said to the interns when they start, I said, "This is your internship." I said, "We'll give you as much work as you want to do, but we expect it to be done and done on time and to the best of your ability."
Right.
And you'll learn,
Yeah.
and you'll be advanced. And when you go out into the world, you'll be in front of the line when you submit your resume.
Yeah.
Because
And
you
you'll
have
have experience on you'll have experience on that resume that other people don't have.
That'll get you in the door.
Make you more competitive.
That's
So
correct.
so talk to me about what's in the future for Dyester.
I want to be in all types of outdoor structures. So we'll be in storage tents this year, and we just signed a deal with a European company to build air domes. Air domes are over tennis courts. They are over hockey rinks. They are used in universities. They could be 40 by 40, or they could be 400 by 400.
Yeah.
They work their membranes that are injected with air, and they stay inflated, and
Yeah.
they go over these buildings, and that's going to be pretty important. And now people come to us with different types of domes they have, so we're getting involved with inflatables and negative pressure projection domes, which are like, I don't know, like a 40-foot one's like a $500,000
Wow.
that they use, and Hollywood would use it,
Yeah.
because the screen is flat, and it makes an immersive theater. We have less expensive ones for just, regular event guys, but we have professional ones now. We have all types of polycarbonate domes and one-off domes and various things like that. Yurts we make in Mongolia, where yurts originated,
Mhm.
and now we're getting into other type of structures with that. We're having to make different finishes on it and different covers on those yurts, glass yurts. So there's a lot going on, but it's all it's all on the same line of what we're doing, so that we can do the same marketing for it and not go off our path.
So I've seen those inflatable covers that you're talking about over like college and NFL football fields, practice
Exactly.
fields,
Yeah.
so that they can maintain, so they can control the environment and what the temperature is and that kind of thing. And some of these places are Minnesota and
Yeah,
places where
exactly.
the winters are pretty harsh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, when we build it, we have the heater, the air conditioning that they have to buy, but it's kind of airtight, and it has redundancy. It has a generator in case the electricity goes out, and the things stay inflated. And
yeah,
even if the electricity ran out, they'll stay inflated for a period of time without anything.
that's awesome. Well, let me ask you this: is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
Uh, I think we covered it all. At least what I do, but we could talk about the world in general and where we're going with domes and where we're going to be and how we're going to get there. So
It's exciting. It's absolutely exciting. And, we have an issue right now, especially in Southern California. We have an issue with homelessness. And there's a move to these tiny homes and what we call ADUs out here, auxiliary dwelling units. And
accessory dwelling units, yeah,
yeah. And
we
so,
build those.
yeah, that's becoming a thing, and it's becoming bigger than most people realized it would be. But in San Diego County, for instance, we're over 300,000 units short of where we need to be to meet demand. And so there's a real need for this.
Well, Mike, what's the average price of a home in San Diego? And there's your answer.
Yeah,
And what's the average price of a home 15 years ago in San Diego?
yeah. It's over a million.
Yeah,
It's over a million.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
and depending
so
upon where you go, it could be 15 million, it could be 20 million. And it could be in some areas of San Diego, it's an average of 800,000. But you're still, no matter where you go, you're looking at a very large price tag, and the cost of land just keeps going up.
right, because they don't build any more of it.
Right.
You know, these people young couple just getting married or just starting out, whatever their relationship is, they want to go buy something, to put down 20% on $1 million place is 200 grand that they have
Yeah.
to save after
Yeah.
tax money.
Well, a lot of them can't save
Well, of
because
course,
they've got
because they
student
need to
loan
live.
debt, because yeah, right. And rent's so high and all that kind of thing. So it's that's why we're writing a book, by the way, on home ownership, because millennials just are not interested in real estate because they have PTSD from the Great Recession and all that. Because when they were children, they were watching everybody that they love lose their houses, or a lot of the people. And so we're literally writing this book for millennials to take the case to them that home ownership needs to be part of the American dream again. The average homeowner, their net worth, according to the National Association of Realtors, is over 300,000. The average tenant's net worth is under 8,000.
That's a far cry from that, right? Yeah.
That's a big number, and that's
Oh yeah.
average across the country. That's not just saying California, right? So you take that and multiply it by tens of millions of people and realize that real estate is 74% of this nation's net worth. We've got to arrest this. We've got to make the case to millennials directly that home ownership is important, because that 300,000 they're going to use to send their kids to college. They're going to use for their retirement, right? This is a quality of life issue. This is a standard of living issue.
in theory, if we look ahead, if you don't get the millennials or the next generations to buy the homes, there'll be nobody to support the prices.
Exactly. Exactly. And you'll have corporations and hedge funds and that kind of thing coming in and gobbling
clean
out
out again
the excess. Yeah.
and start renting and
Yeah.
then
And it's
selling them
exactly
off.
what happened. In 2018, they started buying these houses in thousands and thousands of units. And, they started showing up at these builder conferences. A buddy of mine's a home builder. And they started showing up at these builder conferences, and they would these hedge funds would walk up to these builders and go, I want you to go build 1,000 houses for me, fee structure. Okay. So we're going to pay you a fee to build them. We're going to buy them from you, and then we're going to rent them out. We have no desire to sell them. We're just going to rent out 1,000 units, 1,000 houses, single family detached houses at a time.
Who else could do that?
But
Nobody.
there's demand there,
Yeah.
right? And the demand is because the millennials don't like real estate, and so they don't trust it. And so that's what's going on right now. And so, I'm just crazy enough to think that I can drive a national narrative and convince millennials that they can and should buy real estate.
Well, I'd like to put that book on my reading list, and I hope you're able to send me one, or at least send me a link to get it.
I'd love to. I'd love to. It's going to be a few months before we're done, but I've got my ghostwriter in place, and we're on our way. We started last month, so yeah, I'm where real estate is headed and where we're headed in terms of sustainable housing. What you're doing is not going to get less popular. It's going to get more popular as we go, because let's be honest, it costs more to build now. It costs more to permit. It costs more to buy the land. It costs more to make the improvements. Everything costs more. And so if you can find a way to build a house with containers, or you can find a way to live in a yurt, or find a way to live in a geodesic dome, there are people out here in California that do it all the time, and they love it. People that own a geodesic dome will tell you that they will not go back to a regular house.
That's right. They do love it. I mean, people just love the feeling when they walk into these domes.
Yeah, it's just this unbelievable open, airy feeling.
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
it's that open
right.
concept that everybody wants.
That's exactly right. Our goal with the containers is to start building small communities of high-end shipping container homes, that are cantilevered and, that have real interest. And, that will be the value from the fact that we could build it ourselves and sell it ourselves, kind of like a developer.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So,
well, listen, it was great to have you on the Mike Litton Experience. I cannot thank you enough for being our guest. I thoroughly enjoyed our time together.
Well, thank you. And anytime. Thank you so much.
I'm going to put a link to your website, to Dyester. I'll put a link to your website in our description, okay?
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, sir.
I appreciate you. Thanks
again for being here, Barry.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.